Hello everyone, Instructor Bravo from Bravo Tactical. We're at US Defense Solutions on National in Columbus, Indiana. And we're here today with Jim Anthony from the USCCA, actually Delta Defense.
The service provider to the USCCA, yep.
USCCA, with a really exciting announcement.
Yeah.
Jim and I and the USCCA have kind of worked on this opportunity for you all, and I think you're going to be very well pleased. So what we're planning is we have a course, and the course information is down below, where it's a concealed carry fundamental course. It's all USCCA based curriculum, and Bravo Tactical has been running this course since 2016 for $125. So generally, it's a 6-hour lectureship course. But this time we're launching this to really get this information out at only $20. $20.
That's the big deal here. The special here is that it's only $20 for the whole day. And the reason is we just want more people to get exposed to this content. This is critical knowledge that any responsible gun owner really needs to know. And I'm guessing $125 can be a struggle for some people, right? Especially right these days. So let's fix that and put it out there. We can't do it every time at $20, but we're going to do a special event here and just make it really available for as many people as possible.
Absolutely. Well, Jim's going to kind of...
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about what we're going to do in the class.
Here's what the day is going to consist of. First and foremost, keep in mind it's a 6-hour, 9 to 3 event. We're not going to really take an hour lunch. We're going to take breaks, bring snacks, bring some food, whatever.
Bring some beverages?
Yeah, because we're just going to go straight through with breaks, of course, but we're not going to take a big lunch break, so be ready for that. So here it is. Here are the topics of the day. We're going to start out with developing a personal protection plan, then roll into self-defense firearms basics, defensive shooting fundamentals, legal use of force, then taking everything you've learned, building your plan and continuing your training so the things you've learned become lifestyle, they become habits. We need to do more than just spend one day in a class. Yeah. And then the last subject is the one that I think is the most overlooked. When you talk about responsible gun owners, people focus on handling their firearms, cleaning their firearms, shooting their firearms. They don't talk about violent encounters and the aftermath, the physiology. How does fear, how does anxiety affect your brain, your nervous system, and therefore your body, how you're going to behave in a moment. So I'm going to have him talk about each of these. Let's start with the first subject, developing a personal protection plan. What does that include? Yeah,
so we're gonna talk about the 4 components of a personal protection plan and how important those are, right? Because if you've only got half of them covered out of the 4, you're really only setting yourself up for 50% success, as I like to say, right? So it's real important to cover those, and that gives us the basis of our entire plan that we're going to be talking about at the end, right? Near the end, which really is an important subject. Some of the other things that we'll talk about in that segment are situational awareness, conflict avoidance, how to make yourself not look like a target, right? And we go pretty in depth in those, I think, not only with just content, but also with examples, right? Personal examples on my own, things like that.
So after talking kind of a big picture of having a personal defense kind of mindset, then we roll into self-defense firearms basics, which is different than just firearms basics. It's one thing to go to a range, shoot, and know how to handle your firearm. It's a different thing to have a mindset or a sensibility of, okay, now that I have this firearm, what does that mean from a self-defense perspective? Talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, so, I think what one of the things that we do is we start out right out the gate with the universal safety rules. But one of the things I like to add is, well, how does range rules apply, right? And how do those differ? And why is that important to understand? We'll cover that in the class. I think it's very important to understand.
I think one of the reasons it's important is because it's all about habits. Yeah. If you go to the range and you have a habit of doing certain things on the range, and that habit isn't very productive in a real live, quick self-defense situation, we need to understand that.
Absolutely.
And then we need to train for self-defense habits, not just range habits.
Absolutely.
So that's huge. Anything else on that one?
Yeah, and then we talk about how to select a firearm, right, like a handgun. How should it fit your hand? We talk about the size of the barrel in relation to ballistics. So and then we talk about different types of actions. And then we really talk about the modern day pistol. I think is really important.
And one of the things,
in other words, what we're doing is we're giving people the information and tools to go out and make a decision.
make good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got to think about things like, okay, the size of the handgun, the weight of the handgun. You may shoot that gun really well, but if it's a little bit too big and bulky for you to carry, you'll leave it at home.
Yeah.
And it's not going to do you any good. Or you may think, wow, this gun feels great. It's small, it's compact. So you're willing to carry it everywhere you go, but you can't shoot it very well.
Right.
So we're going to talk about how to balance out those things and think through making decisions about firearms and calibers of ammo.
Absolutely.
In that section. Then you get into defensive shooting fundamentals. So now skills, capabilities, if you get into a self-defense situation, talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so that segment of the course is really based on comparisons, right? The difference between defensive shooting fundamentals versus marksmanship style shooting, which if you've ever been to a range, it's pretty much 9 times out of 10, that's what they've done is marksmanship, right? So what is defensive shooting and how does it differ from marksmanship? Now marksmanship is in defensive, but defensive is not in marksmanship training, except for the marksmanship component, right? We always want to get accurate shots, right?
But again, habits are the reason why this matters. If all you ever do is hold that gun and take your time and focus on marksmanship, and you're not used to moving a little bit more quickly, putting rounds down range quicker, maybe you have a bigger grouping, but in defensive shooting, that's very acceptable in certain situations.
Yep.
We need to know the difference.
Absolutely.
And I think you're going to get a lot of value out of that one. Going from defensive shooting, if you had to use force, we need to know what the law says about legal use of force. When you can, when you can't. What are the rules of engagement? People don't know. Some people don't know. You can get in trouble for just telling somebody you have a gun.
Yep.
You can get in trouble for just showing your gun in a way that somebody viewed it as threatening. We need to understand those laws. And so we're going to cover a whole section on that.
And you'll be teaching that section.
I'll be teaching most of that section. You'll be color commentating on that one.
It's fun.
And then we're going to talk about building your plan. So you've just learned all this stuff now. How do you take what you've learned? It's only one class, one day. But we're talking about a lifestyle. We're talking about an ongoing capability that needs to be kind of drilled into our lifestyle or to our brain. So we're going to talk about how do you build a plan and how do you sustain your training, your knowledge, your education, and turn some of these things into habits. And then the last thing, which I think is probably the most overlooked topic in responsible gun ownership, people don't spend a lot of time studying violent encounters and the aftermath. What happens when you face a violent, quick, out of nowhere kind of violent encounter and your heart starts pumping through your chest and your cortisol and your adrenaline go nuts, and we need to know what to expect. Shaking is normal in a situation like that, right? A lot of people think they're failing if they're afraid. No, that's normal. If we understand that and train for that. So talk about that for a bit.
So we just do a deep dive in the parasympathetic nervous system. We talk about the effects of the parasympathetic nervous system, how it happens. We look at a updated version by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman and Bruce Siddle of the old inverted U law, right? And we don't just stop there. We also look at the parasympathetic nervous system, right? So the backlash, PNS backlash, as we call it, after the event, what happens physiologically to the body. And these are really important to understand because all modern day training has been changed and altered based on how humans perform under stress. Really, when you think about physiological and psychological, it's really about human performance and human limitations in deadly force encounters, right? And it drives our training today. It drives why we run the gun a certain way, why we do what we do, why do we train the way that we train and do the types of training, right? It's very critical to understand that.
So yeah, that's violent encounters. So the whole day is developing a personal protection plan, self-defense firearms basics, defensive shooting fundamentals, legal use of force, building your plan, tools and resources, and violent encounters in the aftermath. That's a full day of really, really solid training.
Absolutely, and we will be issuing certificates at the end of the day. So people will be able to log this into their training, come out with a lot of the new knowledge, and with, I think really important when we talk about building your plan in there, it gives them the tools and resources to know what to do next, right? Not just a bunch of new information and say, well, what do I do now? Right? That's not setting you up for success. No, we need to give you the next things that you can do to make yourself know more and be able to do more and be more prepared, not only for the event, but those events that happen after.
Before, during, and after.
Absolutely.
So the way the USCCA says it, we need to be mentally and physically and legally prepared. What is in your brain will affect how you engage, how you behave in that moment. Well, how you behave in the moment of a self-defense incident, your behavior itself is the thing that gets argued in the courtroom.
Yeah.
It's really your physical execution that is the basis of the argument. We want to make sure that you're so mentally prepared that you behave in ways that not only you're going to win that fight, but then you're going to win that argument after the fight.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the fundamentals of the class.
So look down below. You'll see the location, you'll see the dates, the times, the links to go sign up, and just really hope that we can get this information out to a lot of people. It is a limited enrollment, but and I think we've decided to give some giveaways too.
Oh yeah, there'll be
We're
some
gonna
fun
do
giveaways.
Some fun giveaways.
We'll have a lot of fun.
Some
It's not
prizes.
it's not a lecture. It's a workshop. We'll
Yeah,
call it.
absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
questions and comments are welcome.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
So, well, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you there.